Hello and a warm welcome to the program. I'm Teniola Shoboali. South Africa's former president Jacob Zuma has faced a second day of questioning at a corruption inquiry today. As the hearing resumed, he said a unanimous caller threatened to kill him and his children after yesterday's event. Mr. Zuma testified that his personal assistant who answered the telephone call on Monday night was told, "Tell Zuma we are going to kill him, his children and people around him." In response, Presiding Judge Ray Zondo says any threats of violence and intimidation are totally unacceptable, adding that witnesses called before the Commission of Inquiry must be granted the utmost protection. On Monday, Mr. Zuma angrily rejected allegations that he was personally corrupt and said he was the victim of a decades-long conspiracy. The inquiry is investigating allegations that the former president oversaw a web of corruption during his term in office.
This commission, from my understanding, was really created to have me coming here. And perhaps to find things on me. There has been a drive to remove me from the scene. A wish that I should disappear. I've never did anything with them, unlawfully or whatever. They just remained friends, as they were friends to everybody else. I've been vilified, alleged to be the king of corrupt people. I'm the most corrupt. I've been given every other name, and I'd never responded to those issues.
Our South Africa Bureau Chief, Betty Dibia, has been covering this story, and she joins us now for more. Betty, day 2 of 5. How did today go?
Well, it's been a day of questioning interjections by his counsel, saying he's been ambushed and the likes, and he's been responding to some of the testimonies of a former parliamentarian, a former leader of the Government Communications and Information Services, a department under the Ministry, I think, of Communication. Allegations against him in the case of Mr. Temba Maseko, who was the head of that body. The questioning began yesterday and it was concluded today, where he had claimed that the president ordered his then minister in the presidency, Colin Chabane, who was not happy with him because he refused to grant the Guptas about 600 million rand worth of government advert funding. You know, so these are, the president, of course, denied doing that or making that call for him to be sacked. There was also the issue of a former ANC member of parliament, Faike Mento, who had claimed that the president was in the space where she had been offered a ministerial position in order for the country's flag carrier, the South African Airlines or Airways, to drop a Mumbai route to India for a preferred airline by the Gupta family, which is Jet Airlines. So when she declined, and she was promised that position for the then Minister of Public Enterprises, Barbara Hogan, to be fired and for her to take the place if she, as a parliamentarian, influenced that decision. Of course, that didn't happen. But when the ministerial list came out, it was Malusi Gigaba who was appointed, and that request took place where the Mumbai route was dropped by the SAA. Of course, the president has denied. He's also said that he doesn't recall having interactions with Ms. Mentor, and that he doesn't discuss ministerial lists with people outside of state. Along the line, the questioning back and forth, the president, his counsel or his his lawyers jumped up to say, look, you're ambushing him, and they're not very comfortable with the line of questioning. But it's been adjourned. It continues tomorrow.
Betty, we know this is going on through to Friday, I believe. But do we know, will we know the results of this inquiry by Friday, or will we have to wait a bit longer before we find out the results?
The inquiry has up to 2 years to work. It started last year. The president's part is just part of it. And if we recall, the chairman of the commission, Deputy Chief Justice Raymond Zondo, had said he may not be the only former head of state who will be appearing here. So there's still so many more witnesses or so many more people to be called up or invited by the commission. At the end of which, I think it has about 2 years to work. At the end of which, if anybody is going to be prosecuted, that will happen. But nobody is going to be prosecuted while the commission is going on with its investigations.
A really long time, but if indeed the former president is found guilty of corruption, what punishment is he likely to face?
Remember, this is not a court of law, so if indeed he's going to be charged, according to the Minimum Sentencing Act, I think of 2007 or so, minimum sentence for corruption is about 15 years, especially for first offenders, people found guilty. But it could be more. Another law, I can't quite remember, had said it will be, you could get life. But in the case of, in a situation like this, the minimum sentence is about 15 years. And some who have had, some of the names mentioned already here, like Shabir Sheikh, Jackie Salebi, who were sentenced for corruption or alleged corrupt activities, they got medical parole, so they spent a few months in jail and they came out. But the minimum, according to the law, is 15 years. But if that will happen, of course, we have the issue of the burden of proof, and we'll still hear more testimony from the former president and other people who will be called by the commission.
Okay, well, let's talk about the development today. How are South Africans reacting to Zuma's claim of death threats after yesterday's questioning?
Well, if we go by the reactions on social media platforms, quite colorful. A lot of people are taking that with a pinch of salt, saying he's trying to distract people from really hearing the truth about some of his alleged activities. But the commission is not taking it lightly. It's quite a high security sitting. Before you get into the place, you have to be thoroughly screened. Even the judge, for him to get in, highly secure setting. But beyond that, probably he talked about him and his family being threatened, his lawyer. And again, he's not the only person who has claimed that. The FICE mentor we have talked about claimed that she too had been threatened. And if we recall, the former Bosasa boss, Angelo Agrisi, is claiming that he too, because of some of the explosive things that we've been hearing. But the commission, according to the evidence leader, that's Advocate Paul Pretorius, the Secretariat has investigative capacity, and they'll be looking into it. And the judge, Justice Zondo, has said, look, let's not take this lightly and look into it to ensure that anyone who comes before the commission is protected. But then again, former President Zuma is a former president, and he has the full complement of presidential protection. So he may not be too at risk. Probably other people outside his immediate circle, maybe people related to him, if indeed were to take this seriously, the threat. But the commission is not taking it lightly, and they hope nothing will happen.
All right then, Betty, thank you so much for giving us an update today. Thank you so much.
Thank you.